Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I have with me Ali, Arangan, and Ash, the three A's, and myself. I've already made that joke, but I want to make it again. We are coming to you with our first podcast of the season. So we have to, of course, talk about the start of the season, a couple of matches being played, the transfer windows for some of the big teams, some teams in dire straits, others looking pretty damn good. And we'll also preview a couple of the matches on the weekend as well. Before we get into it, how are you all doing?
Good. Thanks. Good.
I can't complain, man. Can't complain. Still living, still breathing. I guess we're good.
Good to hear. Guys, as well, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a rating and review as well if you're watching or listening to the podcast. I guess we can start. Let's just start off with the most chaotic team at the moment, which is Manchester United, because I feel like Erik Ten Hag has got the most difficult job on his hands right now. And I can see Arangan smiling as an Arsenal fan because he's probably thinking, well, Arsenal aren't in any trouble at the moment, and he's thinking back reminiscing to a couple of years ago where Arsenal were in a similar position. But Manchester United are just, I mean, they are in dire straits. We're talking about teams in dire straits. They are one of them. And I don't know if you guys saw the kind of heated exchange, as Sky called it, between Carragher and Redknapp and Gary Neville. Yeah, where I feel like Gary Neville just seems to be blaming the Glazers all the time, which is quite ironic considering that they were in charge when he was playing. But I get what he's trying to say about the infrastructure, but the players just, I mean, they spent a lot of money. Now the recruitment hasn't been great, I think, fine, but you can only blame the owners so much, I feel, and the players not really taking much responsibility. I get Ten Hag didn't get his players, I think, that he wanted, and might get De Jong, might not. Doesn't look like that. That doesn't look like it's going to materialize anytime soon, I guess. What are your guys' thoughts? And I guess we can start with you, Ali. What's your thoughts on Manchester United? And I mean, is it just all to blame, or are the Glazers all to blame, or is it does Erik Ten Hag, is he being hyped up a bit too much? Too early to tell. Do the players need to take responsibility? What's going on?
Well, first of all, I just want to start off by saying that I'm very happy United are playing with the way they're going, because that's a guaranteed 3 points for Liverpool. And I'm sure the other teams think that as well. But going back to your question, I wouldn't blame Ten Hag. I think it's way too early, incredibly early, to blame the manager at this moment. I think it's more so the players. But I'm over the past few years. I mean, we've seen Ole Gunnar Solskjaer beforehand. I'm starting to give more and more the Glazers and the ownership behind it. I would say the first and foremost, players need to buckle up. I mean, this is Manchester United. I mean, irrespective of our rivalries, we have to give credit where credit's due. Manchester United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. So the respect, just playing for the badge alone, should mean something. So I think the players need to buckle up. In terms of the Glazers, I mean, I don't know too much about them, but from speaking to Man United fans, reading and listening to other people, I do believe that the Glazers are the more toxic, they're not conducive to the club anymore. I mean, since the Ferguson dynasty ended and now the club has gone downhill, in my opinion, they should have stepped in and taken steps to ensure that this doesn't happen again, or essentially they cut their losses, because at the end of the day, they are businessmen. That's business.
But yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. You take your time. But go on.
Can you hear me now perfectly? Perfect. So yeah, as I was saying, the Glazers are businessmen at the end of the day. So the way I see it, they should have taken steps, introduced policies or procedures, injected more money into the club to ensure that the club doesn't end up in further turmoil. So I would say the players need to buckle up and the Glazers need to fix up. The managers to attack the manager.
Yeah. No, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. How about you, Ash? What's your thoughts?
I'd probably agree with that for the most part. I think it's kind of a long-term issue of Man U that they didn't really prepare for Fergie leaving, and I think maybe Neville said it as well. There was Fergie and one other guy at the club who pretty much were carrying everything, and once they departed, you saw, I guess, I mean, it's taken a while, but people eventually realized that was kind of a very sort of, there were really fickle foundations beneath that. And when Fergie went, I think there's been a kind of consistent lack of good decision making, whether it comes to appointing managers, getting the right players in at the right time. Because I think there's like the list of players who've just, I think Neville and Carragher did it on Monday Night Football, and they kind of went through every transfer since, and the amount of players who are in like the kind of red fail category relative to the kind of green or amber, which was like, okay.
I think there are only 3 green, right? Or something. It was like 3 green.
Yeah. It was crazy because it's been like 10 years or something. So to have that many failed transfers, it's just like that points to something a lot bigger, I think. And I think it is really hard to pinpoint because I don't think it's easy as just saying like, oh, if the Glazers go, then Man U will be fine, or like you can't necessarily just label it on managers every time, and which players like and there's this kind of fixation as well after the Brentford game about like they kept going on about how like Lisandro Martinez is this 5'9" centre back, but the problems are much bigger than one smallish player. Like it makes no sense to me, and I think they're in a really rough place. And but Ten Hag to me seems like a good manager, and I think with time he'll probably be able to get a decent amount out of this squad. But they are definitely in as you say, dire straits.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see if they're given, if he's given time as well, because if the results keep on going this way, who knows? But yeah, I agree. I think the Martinez thing's interesting, but the biggest thing I think was them trying to play the ball out from the back and clearly not really working, and they got caught and kind of they got nicked a couple of times. Ericsson as well got dispossessed, and at the back, De Gea is not really a keeper who can play out the back. He's not an Edison or Allison, to be honest with you. So that was interesting, and I'm not quite sure if De Gea is going to be able to play like that. So interesting to see whether he has to maybe tweak the tactics slightly against Liverpool and just, I guess, accept that at the moment with the players he's got, he's not going to be able to 100% fulfill like the philosophy that he has in mind. And it'll be interesting to see if he's going to accept that or whether he's going to be very stubborn and say, no, I'm going to try and do it. And maybe it comes off, maybe it doesn't. But I would err on the side of it probably won't, given the players that are in place right now. But we can see. Aaron, what's your thoughts on the whole Manchester United situation?
Yeah, I mean, you made the comparison between Arsenal, so to open that can of worms, I guess. I'm amazed that anyone watching Man United was happy with the way they were playing last season, especially during the window. What's shocked me the most is the fact that they don't really seem to have a plan about who they're trying to get. I mean, if you compare Arsenal and Man United, Arsenal, to their credit, rightly or wrongly, went out and chased a few players, and they clearly had a target of who they wanted to get, and they tried their best to get it. Man United, I mean, they're kind of going for the same players, to be honest. Arnautovic, you've got Rabia. These are players who are known to have discipline problems. They've kind of chased a few targets, and it's probably not going to be something they can do in one window, because they've got loads of players who are on big contracts, probably don't really have the right attitude. But I'm shocked at how long it took them even to get Ten Hag and how little of a plan they have at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. It's just a bit toothless, isn't it? I think it's probably the right word for it. And yeah, we can blame the Glazers, and I think that's fine. And obviously, something needs to be done on that front. But it's definitely bigger than that for sure. It's definitely a case of the players need to step up as well. They need to, I guess, be held accountable and also take responsibility for how it's been going so far, because you can't just sit there and say, you know what, we can just blame the owners. It's a very easy thing to do, and just okay, well, we're devoid of any responsibility. So they've still got some very good players on paper anyway. They should be performing better. I mean, Bruno, he has just gone off the boil for the last half a year. It's bizarre. He had played so well in the first that year he was at Manchester United, and now he's just playing pedestrian like style football. He gets nicked off the ball all the time. Just doesn't seem anywhere near the type of player, and I wonder whether that's just because the results and the atmosphere in the club is poor. But for players need to have stronger mentalities than that they can, they say, you know what, let's step up, let's be the person who actually ignites something, and let's fight to actually get into a better rhythm at the club. And I don't know whether the players, or they have the players to do that. Who knows? We'll see. I guess before we move on to other teams, I mean, we may as well talk about Manchester United versus Liverpool, because we're touching upon that match right now, or touching upon Manchester United right now. I mean, do they have any chance in that match? Because Liverpool, to be fair, have come off 2 draws, and we'll touch upon Liverpool in more depth, I guess, in a second. But they haven't played incredibly well. They've got a new forward who just got sent off, so he won't be in the Manchester United match. But they've still got so many forward and attacking options to pull from. They're clearly going to go into it the huge favourites, and I would imagine it's just a matter of time until they click. Manchester United, it's they've just been beaten 4-0 at Brentford. Could it be a case of actually we see a big reaction from Manchester United, which sometimes happens when you get smashed like that? Or is it going to be a potential another drubbing? Ali, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be biased because I'm a Liverpool fan now, but I do think we are. I mean, even if I was a neutral fan, I think Liverpool are the huge favourites. We are the huge favourites in this game. I think the thing that helps us is that despite Nunes being sent off, stupid thing on his part, we've got enough, to still cause damage, still pose a significant threat. We've still got a few decent attacking players. So I think taking with Man United, they're very discombobulated at the club, and I think that because of that lack of unity and lack of cohesive, that sense of togetherness, that team chemistry, I think Liverpool would be in a very prime position to really harm Man United. And I think if Liverpool don't win by 2 goals, in my opinion, I think that's a poor game. Even though it's a win, I think if Liverpool didn't win by 2 goals, I think that's a poor result on Liverpool's part.
A big talk. I like it from the Liverpool fan. Ash, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's so hard to back Man U in this game. I mean, Liverpool, it is strange. I didn't expect Liverpool to have kind of not won yet, because Fulham and Palace aren't exactly the biggest tests. But like Man U's defense is just so woeful at the moment. The way like Brentford just carved them open, you have to think that that Liverpool with all their attacking ability will easily pass through that. And maybe there may be some sort of reaction, and I'm sure Ten Hag would have been ripping into his players, and that might produce something. But over the course of 90 minutes, I just don't see a way in which Liverpool don't come out on top.
Yeah, that's fair. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Ripping into the players. I don't know whether he will be. I mean, players nowadays seem so fragile. I don't even know if he's going to be ripping into them. Maybe he's just giving them a little arm around the shoulder and, it's okay, don't worry, you can play better next week. But Aaron, what's your thoughts? Do they have any chance?
No. I mean,
Short and to the point.
Jurgen Klopp as a coach, his best quality is how he fires players up. Like, he takes players who individually looked quite average before they came to Liverpool, and he's made them world class. And Liverpool always start slowly, and I think it will all just play into his hands. I can't really see United winning.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I'm on the same opinion. I think I'll go 2-0 Liverpool. Don't see Manchester United scoring. I don't know where the goal comes from Manchester United. I think the one thing I would say, and again, preseason doesn't mean much, but Martial was playing really well in preseason, wasn't he, from what I know? He got injured just before the start of the season. That probably didn't help. Interesting to see if he does come, when he's fully fit. I don't know if he is fully fit now. Whether one, he starts, and two, if he can carry that form into the season, because they need someone up top to score goals. They don't really have anyone. I know they've got Ronaldo, but Ronaldo doesn't want to be there. So that means that, he's not really going to bust a gut for a team where, they are potentially, people are talking about them getting relegated, for crying out loud. So that's just crazy talk. I think that's going to happen, but they're not in a particularly good position, let's be honest. Let's move on then to kind of, I guess, rosier topics. And I know Aaron Gann's really keen to talk about Arsenal, I'm sure. So we can touch upon Arsenal and Gabriel Jesus. He's been calling a lot of people so far this season to start off the season. And I don't know how many contacts he has in his phone book, but I'm pretty sure he's going to use all of them by the end of the season by the looks of it. He's looking good. I already knew he was a good player, but it seems like he has found a team where he's able to play week in, week out. Obviously, at Manchester City, he was struggling to do that. And he's showing his class, that's for sure. But it's not just him. Obviously, they've appointed a new captain, Odegaard, and there literally has been a change of guard, excuse the pun. But, Odegaard has been good. And we've also seen Martinelli. He's fully fit, which is great because he's been injured on and off. Xhaka, after that whole... when he basically he swore at the fan, didn't he? And just he basically put his middle finger up, or I think it was. And, he was really, really unhappy. And everyone was saying he's going to go. That's it. You can't do that to a fan or to the fans and then expect to, stay. He's going to go. And interestingly, Arteta put his arm around him and said, look, we need you. And look, now he's like a fan favorite again, right? So he's putting in some really good performances, interestingly. And, the young guns are coming through, Smith Rowe and Katia. Partey as well is in there. Zinchenko's been a good buy because Tierney's always injured. So it seems like Arteta's finally managed to get things to click. Of course, Saka was great last season as well. So they've got good players, right? It's just a question of there's not a huge amount of, I guess, depth in the squad. In terms of starting 11, it's looking pretty good. Aaron Gann, first of all, what do you think of the transfer window for Arsenal? And second of all, you must be really happy with the start.
Yeah, mixed feelings actually. So I've just caught up with the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary, and I was very quickly reminded that it's still the same group of players that let me down last season. So I think we've recruited well. There used to be a time when Man City would buy our players, and now we're starting to buy them from City. Gabriel Jesus, I feel a bit sorry for him in a way at City because looking at where he came from and how he came into the team, he couldn't really have done much more. He's got really good stats. He did what was asked for him, but he's just been kind of blown out of order by Haaland. So it was a really good signing for Arsenal to get, and he looks much more comfortable as a central striker, being made the big man in the team. Zinchenko is really solid and helps with squad depth. With Arsenal, we always have a lot of false dawns. We've played really, really well in the first 2 games. I'll believe it when I see it in terms of us being in the Champions League and pushing for trophies. But the only thing that I did realise is because now that we're in the Europa League and now that you've got the World Cup coming up in the winter, squad depth is really going to be key, and it's going to be a lot of stop-start, a lot of kind of bitty games. So while things are looking great for Arsenal at the moment, the season hasn't really got going yet.
Yeah, agreed. It hasn't. That's for sure. I think there's a long way to go. And yeah, that's a great start. And I actually made the joke, and Aaron is not going to appreciate this, in my work fancy football chat, because we were doing a draft, and somehow I was first after the first week. And then I've slowly seen myself after the first couple just drop down. And I made the comment that, I feel like Arsenal at the start of the season, I'm always at the top of the league. And then it doesn't last very long. But at the moment, Arsenal are doing pretty well. So they're holding firm right now. So let's see. I know you're saying about the squad depth, and I agree. But they're joint up with Man City. I know it's only 2 games gone, but it's a strong start from them. And I do think, to really kind of nail down Champions League, they'll need the big players to stay fit. They can't afford for players to get injured for long periods of time. If they do, then they're going to be in trouble. But if not, they'll be okay. Probably need a couple more squad players, that's for sure, as we were saying, Aaron Gann. But yeah, definitely some good recruitment there. Just maybe volume, need a bit more. Ash, what's your thoughts on Arsenal as a fellow Londoner? Are we a bit, I guess, I'm a bit jealous because we could have done with Gabriel Jesus. I mean, we've got no striker now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I can't believe that we didn't get in there early and convince him. I know maybe he obviously knows Arteta, so he might have been swayed by that. But you'd think if you're Jesus, looking at Chelsea and Arsenal.
Exactly. Come on, Arangan. Chelsea are now just joking. But we should have done the Barcelona and just nicked every player that that they wanted. Jesus, sorry, we'll just nick him last second. Yeah. Give him an extra 5 million.
I know. I mean, but to be fair to Arsenal, like what a signing, and I think the other buyers as well, Zinchenko, they're both Prem proven and can kind of just. It seems like already it just like seamlessly slotted into that squad. And I will say their defense seems stronger, as strong as I've seen it in a number of years. I think they've had real problems with certain players in their defense. But they've got a really good goalie now. And then I think Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, they're all really solid. And I think one of the things that benefits Arsenal, which they haven't necessarily been fortunate to have recently, is I think their opening run of fixtures is actually quite favourable. And I think in the part, last season they had to play Chelsea, Man City in the first few weeks. And I think, if they can get a good run going, that will really build confidence that can help them, I think, in terms of as the season progresses. So they could find themselves in quite a good position come, say, the first sort of few months of the season. But I will say, I think it is just a case of squad depth. And if there are a few injuries, like I look at Chelsea last season and we were playing really well for the first couple months, looking like title contenders. And then when Chilwell and James got injured, it kind of just all fell apart. And I feel like it's a similar case with Arsenal. If they get a couple injuries to key players, let's say Gabriel Jesus gets injured, I just like the effects of that could be so fatal for Arsenal for the season. So I think it's kind of on a knife edge with them. But I think they are slowly but surely building kind of the right kind of team atmosphere. I think Arteta is the right man, and they just seem to be in a much more positive position than they've been in several years. So fair play to them.
Yeah, agreed. Ali, what's your thoughts?
I think Arsenal have been, it's 2 games in, but based on the 2 games they're playing, I think they've been absolutely fantastic, absolutely phenomenal. And if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be very optimistic. As a non-Arsenal fan, I'm not as optimistic. I think Arsenal, well, honestly, there's not much. I think Arsenal have been playing very well, and I think that they will do very well this season and will potentially go very far.
Yeah, agreed. Right, let's start with let's carry on with Chelsea then. Let's keep up the London theme because I have a lot to talk about my team Chelsea, and I'm sure Ash does too. I mean, first of all, I just don't understand how we've let 2 strikers go and we haven't bought a single striker. I mean, if we don't get a striker in this transfer window, it's just disaster, absolute disaster. I mean, Havertz is not a striker. I know we want to play him as one, but he's not. We let Lukaku go fine because there's the whole Inter-Chelsea thing. He'll probably be back at Chelsea next season, but whatever. And Werner, it's so funny, right? I saw on Facebook after we sold him, Werner scores 36-yard screamer. And I watched it and it was like a goalkeeper mistake. Like it basically just went and the goalkeeper flapped it in. And I was like, okay. But look, I don't want to say I rated Werner as if like he's the best thing since sliced bread, even. But I do think he's a pretty good player. I don't think he's a bad player. I think we should have kept him. And, if he's not going to play every game, fine. But at least give him a run of games, see what you can do, because he clearly has some sort of chemistry with Havertz, and from all the reports and all the players, etc., they were saying that he has a really positive influence in the dressing room as well. Like he's a really hard worker. Fine, didn't work for him for a season or so, whatever, but doesn't mean that it can't work. And the fact is that if we're going to sell him, I would have hoped we had someone lined up. I'm happy for us to sell someone if we actually have someone lined up, even if, I think, maybe we should have given Werner more time. The one person I know we've been linked with is Aubameyang, because there's the whole Barcelona situation where they, we could do a whole podcast for hours on this Barcelona situation. We've no point even talking about it, but it's pretty farcical. The whole, buying players when they're £1 billion in debt or billion euros in debt. But, Aubameyang obviously hasn't been registered yet because Lewandowski, they bought him recently after Aubameyang joined in January. I think Aubameyang scored like 14 goals in 17 games or something. So he's been done a little bit dirty there. But I don't think they're going to play both together because Xavi's not going to play two up front. So that means that he potentially is up for sale and Chelsea might go in for him. Now, he's a really good player. I think he'd score goals. My issue, though, is that he's 33 years old. So he doesn't have many more years left in him, and one of his key attributes is his pace. So that's not going to last that much longer. It's going to last 2 more years, maybe maximum, unless he's Jamie Vardy and somehow manages to kind of keep his pace for a few more years. So, look, I mean, I'm pretty annoyed about that. I don't understand how a team as big as us can't have a recognised striker. It's pretty poor. And in midfield as well, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of us playing 5 at the back, but it is what it is. I think Tuchel obviously wants to play 5 at the back. And Koulibaly looks good. I mean, he's a weird one because so many clubs have been linked with him for like 3-4 years, and he's just never gone anywhere. And then finally we get him, and he's, I think, 30 years old. But defenders, I guess, they have a lot longer in them, like we've seen with Thiago Silva. So I'm hoping that he's going to click in. So far, so good. He's looked pretty good. So I'm hoping that continues. So let's see. I'm pretty and cautiously optimistic. I know we also bought the left back from Brighton. He looks pretty good as well. Ash, I'll go to you then first as a fellow Chelsea fan. I mean, what's been your thoughts, I guess, on the transfer window and also on Chelsea's start? I mean, the Tottenham draw was a bit disappointing because Kane just nicked it in the last minute. I know we played pretty well. I guess as well, what are your thoughts on our chances this year as well?
I mean, it's a very strange time. I think it's sort of in the bigger picture, this big sort of transition period with the new owner, and then kind of I do see the sort of see this season kind of as Tuchel's first real kind of test it, because it's finally sort of him building his own squad in a way with his signings rather than kind of inheriting, a lot of signings from other managers. I know he bought Lukaku, but we saw how that ended. The two just seemed to not click whatsoever. And I think we're kind of in the fallout period of that. That kind of 100 million signing was meant to be the final piece in the jigsaw, and kind of that would allow us to make that next step to where Liverpool and Man City are in terms of competing for the Premier League. And it completely flopped. And same with Werner. I was so excited when we signed him, but he just didn't seem to fit in the Premier League. But I do think I do still remain quite optimistic about this season, especially judging from the Tottenham game, because I thought we played really well, and I didn't really expect us to play that well. I think a lot of people went into that game thinking, if anything, Tottenham were the favourites with all their new signings and Kane and Son, Kulusevski up, phenomenal attack. But I think what we saw is, there could be a really good partnership between Silva and Koulibaly, who just both like kind of ooze class in the way they kind of read the game, and both so good on the ball, and both seem they have that kind of fire and spirit about them, which you need. And then I think you saw kind of how Tuchel can tactically he managed his teams, and I thought we just completely, did Tottenham for the majority of that game. the way like Loftus-Cheek was interchanging with Reese James, and the way Chelsea just kept that Spurs attack quiet for so long. I was really impressed. I think it is strange to look at this season. I think Tuchel was asked kind of what are your ambitions for the season, and he couldn't really provide an answer. He was like, I'm not really sure. I kind of have to see. Which at first I was like, geez, that's not very encouraging. Not going into the season with a clear idea of what you want to achieve. But I think that's just the reality of things. But I think our signings have been good. Sterling, I think, will be good. He's Prem proven. He seems hungry as well. Wants to prove himself. If he didn't need to, I mean, he scored so many goals for City, but it seems like he kind of has unfinished business in a way, and wants to almost show Pep, why did you let me go in a way? And then I think Koulibaly is a great signing. Cucurella, very expensive, but just watching him, he seems to be, a really sound player. The way he kind of zips his passes and is always looking forward. I think we struggled with that with Alonso for many years. Kind of turning back all the time. So it's kind of hard to look at this season, like, in terms of where we will be and kind of what we'll achieve. But I think for the most part, from the first couple of games of the season, I'm pretty encouraged on the whole.
Yeah, agreed. I think Sterling is a good point. I mean, he's class. I genuinely think he's class. I've never understood the kind of weird criticism around him from English fans. Like, I think he's really good. I mean, at Man City, he was one of the standouts for a few years, and obviously last year they just got so much depth now. It's tough for him to get a look in, I guess, as much as he would have liked. He was still playing matches, but just they invested in Grealish, etc. as well. Where does he play if Mahrez is starting, etc. So it is what it is with Foden coming through. Aaron Gann, what's your thoughts on Chelsea as an Arsenal fan? I mean, are you scared, or are you thinking, actually, you know what? This is the season where Arsenal just outclass Chelsea in kind of all facets, because we have been a bit toothless with, I guess, our striker recruitment anyway.
I think Chelsea are always quite hard to predict in pre-season. One thing I would say about them that's noticeably different is from the top you can see that maybe it's because Todd Boehly doesn't have that much experience in kind of football negotiations. They've been beaten a few times to their targets from Barcelona. But the thing is with Chelsea is no matter what happens with the manager or the players, they always find a way to make top four. They always find a way to get in the mix. And when you look at the players that they have, even if they haven't been performing well, all of them have big game experience. Like, Kante's a World Cup winner, Jorginho won the Euros, Kai Havertz scored in the Champions League final. So when it comes to the crunch games, even when they're not doing well over a season, Chelsea somehow find a way to be in and around the mix. I mean, they got to 2 finals last season. It's quite hard on Tuchel because you can see that he's not getting backed by the board and he's not getting the players that he wants. I think Sterling's a really good signing. I think Chelsea perhaps just need a bit of extra depth and maybe some fresh legs. I didn't really see the Cucurella one, to be honest. I feel like part of that was just beating Man City to it. I think that Rafinha would have been a better fit for Chelsea. But again, they still got lots of experience in that squad. So I would be probably a bit more optimistic as a Chelsea fan, actually.
Yeah, well, I'll try my best. Aaron Gunn. Ali, what's your thoughts? Or Ali, sorry, what's your thoughts?
I think Chelsea, this will be an interesting season for Chelsea, in my opinion. I mean, they don't have much anyway, out-and-out striker. And I can see why people may think that's going to be a problem. Having said that, I mean, we've seen recently with Liverpool since the Salah, Mane, and Firmino era, they never really had an out-and-out striker. I mean, Firmino was the closest to it, but he was more of a... I think that he took more from a midfield role. So, but I mean, even with that, Liverpool still went on to pose a significant threat in the league. And I think that is something that Chelsea could potentially do with their great attacking players, the attacking talent. In terms of the defense, I mean, the defense is just going to be bolstered. I mean, you've got experience upon experience. You've got Thiago Silva, you've got Koulibaly, you've got real leaders who work well, and I don't think that they will potentially clash with each other. Because I think the way under Tuchel and the system that Chelsea have, I do not think that they're likely to clash. So I think this will be an interesting season for Chelsea. I mean, I can't say for sure whether they're going to finish in the top 4 or fight for the Prem or not, but it's one of those things that have to wait and see. I think the challenge for top 4 will be very interesting. I mean, 3rd and 4th will be between the 3 London teams, well, 3 major London teams: Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Talking of Tottenham, they've played pretty well so far this year. They haven't really invested in a huge amount of players, have they? I guess they did quite a lot of recruiting last year, but I mean, just very quickly on your guide points. I mean, do you think they missed a little bit of a trick with recruitment? Should they have invested a bit more? And I mean, what are we thinking? Are we thinking they're just looking for top 4 again? Aaron, what's your thoughts as a North London rival?
I guess the hierarchies are very different between the North London clubs. Tottenham, there's always been known that they perhaps probably don't have that much of a budget. Their transfer policy and recruitment's a bit different. As long as they hold on to Harry Kane and Son, there will always be a threat. A lot of their business at the back end of last season, even Kulusevski looked really good and still looks really good for them. I think they have to be a lot more careful with their transfers because they probably don't have the extra like 40 or 50 million that they can blow and waste on a player. So even making sure that the outgoings are matching up. What they've done really well is they've got Conte, and the players that they're getting in clearly want to play for him. And it did make the difference at the end of last season. I think they will be in and around the top 4. We saw against Chelsea how competitive they are. They managed to sneak it back. I'm not sure they've recruited enough this window to keep up with the rest of their rivals. But that's also partly down to how well Arsenal and Chelsea perform.
Yeah, agreed. Ali, what's your thoughts?
I think that Tottenham will do much better than expected this season. I mean, I was speaking about this to my friends recently. One of them made a good point that Conte only goes to teams who he feels he can win the league with. I mean, we've seen it in Chelsea, we've seen it in Milan. I think Tottenham could potentially push for the title this season. I think Tottenham will do very well. They'll pose a threat. I mean, they'll pose serious problems for Tottenham and Liverpool. And I think for the rest of the league, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, all I can say for sure is that the Premier League is going to be very tight and very interesting this season. Now with Tottenham having more of an emphasis, more for, they're in Champions League, right? They've got Champions League for this season, am I correct?
Who have?
Tottenham
Yeah.
managed to secure it.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I think, and this is what, Conte's second season or just signed?
Second season, I think, yeah.
Second season, yeah. I think Tottenham will be in a very very good position to challenge for the Prem and other tournaments.
Interesting. What are your thoughts, Ash?
I think what they did well over summer was they finally kind of bolstered their squad, a bit like Arsenal in a way. Like they kind of added a lot more depth. I think a lot of them are good buys. Richarlison, Perisic, Basuma, I think are all really good players. I think they bought Jed Spence as well, who's quite an exciting player. But I don't know. I know it's only start of the season and it's hard to make calls, but I thought they played really badly against Chelsea relative to how well I thought they'd do. I was really worried going into that game, but they were really poor. I thought, if it wasn't for those referee decisions, I don't think they would have got anything from the game. And I think they are on an upward trajectory like Arsenal, definitely, I think. But I don't know about seeing them as kind of competing with Liverpool's and Man City's kind of at the very top. But I definitely think they're on the right track. And if Conte stays and keeps working with that group of players, I think they can rapidly improve and could definitely set themselves up. If not, necessarily a title push. I think Tottenham are really keen on finally winning a trophy, and I could see them, perhaps doing that this season. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic as a Tottenham fan, not least in the fact that they got a result at Stamford Bridge, which is just something that just doesn't happen, So I think even though they didn't play well, the fact that they did get a point in the end was kind of, I think, for them a big kind of indication that perhaps there's a mentality shift at the club. So yeah, a lot of reason to be optimistic for Tottenham for sure.
Yeah, no, agreed. Interesting to see if they do manage to somehow, I guess, push for a, as Ali said, if they do manage to push for a title, I guess, run, it'll be very interesting to see. I'm not quite sure, but who knows? Who knows? I guess we can finish up in terms of the team previews as well. And on Man City and Liverpool are two, I guess, teams that everyone thinks are going to be the two title contenders. It's been a two-horse race for a couple of years. Might not be the case this year, given the start that Liverpool have had. But as Aaron Gunn pointed out, they can have a pretty slow start to the season and then tend to ramp it up as we kind of approach Christmas, and then that's it, they're in full flow. I guess we can start with Liverpool first. Ali, as a Liverpool fan, I mean, what are your expectations? What are your thoughts on the transfer market? Are you happy with the signing of a new striker, a slightly different way of playing? No Mane now, of course. He was let go. So Diaz is going to play a lot of games. What are your thoughts? Oh, you're just on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I think this season's once again going to be a two-horse race. I think Liverpool will actually, after the United game, I think Liverpool are going to pick it up. As Aaron said, we'll ramp, we start slow, we'll pick it up. I think we will eventually start, getting into our stride eventually as the games go on, and we'll challenge City for the title. In terms of the transfer market, I'm glad we got a striker, Nunez. I'll be honest, I never really followed Nunez as much before. But the reason why I'm saying I'm glad Nunez is signed is because I get the vibe from him that he is someone who will fit in well with the Klopp mentality, with the Klopp philosophy, with Liverpool play. Klopp only goes for players who he knows will fit into his mentality, like pieces to a jigsaw. He's got a striker in Nunez, who will very much fit in well within that system, and he will become very comfortable. Look at Salah. Look at the way when Salah joined Liverpool. Everyone thought, why the hell did he spend that much? And he turned into one of the world's best players, and one of the world's most effective and lethal players. And I think Nunez is someone who could potentially follow that route. I'm very upset about Mane leaving. I think that Liverpool, they disrespected Mane. They placed too much on Salah, and they didn't value Mane enough. I'm Salah's biggest fan, and I think that, yet despite that, I think he's very one-dimensional. I think Mane had more to his game, and I think that had Liverpool given Mane the respect he deserved, we wouldn't have drawn 2 games.
Very strong words in defence of Sadio Mane from Ali. Aaron, what are your thoughts on Liverpool? Can they, I guess, find the success they had 2 years ago, and are they still going to be the title contenders they have been in the last couple of years, or could this be a bit more of a transitional year with a slightly new style and of course, someone spearheading the attack as well?
I think with Liverpool, losing Mane is a big blow, more because of the way that he plays. He kind of embodies the whole Klopp spirit of high pressing, lots of energy, unselfish player, right mentality. And I think Liverpool need to change the way that they play slightly. So they never really had a true number 9 in the same way that Nunez is. he's proven that he's really good in the Champions League. He's done it on the biggest stage, and he'll definitely excel in the Premier League. Headbutts aside and things. I think when you look at which team has got weaker in the transfer window, I feel like City have lost an element because they've lost a lot of their wide players. So Sterling and Gabriel Jesus, as well as Zinchenko's squad depth. Whereas Liverpool, yes, they've lost Mane, but they've brought in a player who could be as good for them. So I think Liverpool, if they manage to just tweak a little bit in terms of the way that they play, make it a bit more central rather than kind of dominating down the wings as much, they should be able to win the league.
Okay, all right. Interesting. Ash?
Yeah, I think Liverpool will be fine. I think they just had a little, if you can call it a little blip in the first couple of games, but I just look at Liverpool and you're instantly just like, if you look at the names on the sheet and Luis Diaz, Salah, Nunez, Thiago seems to be fully settled into Premier League football. Obviously, you've got Trent, who's only getting better, and Virgil at the back. There's just so many class players in that Liverpool team that I just can't see a way in which they're not, competing for the Premier League. And I've always said it that Liverpool and City seem to be the only two teams that are capable of going on these long winning runs and really kind of stamping their authority on the league. And I think once they get going, once Nunez sort of gets to know his teammates a bit better and that sort of thing, I think Liverpool will be right up there, fighting for the Premier League.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah, I think they'll be okay. They'll be fine. I think they've got that winning mentality that they've had for the last few years. So I would imagine they will. They'll definitely push. I think I know Mane leaving was heartbreaking, as Ali's just said, for himself and for some Liverpool fans. But I think the front three needed a refresh at some point, and I don't know who it was going to be. But like Firmino, for example, Salah and Mane, they've been a front three for a few years now. I think they're getting a bit older. They needed a refresh with Diaz and Jota coming in, and now Nunez as well. Of course, it's only really Salah that's left standing. But whether it's Salah or Mane, who knows which would have been better. But either way, I think it was just a matter of time and something that needed to get done. I'm interested to see whether Nunez does hit the ground running, though, as well. And I guess we'll talk about Haaland in a second with Man City. The big thing for him is going to be how does he adapt to the Premier League, but he seems to have the physicality. I think he was clocked as like having the quickest speed in the first week, so he's clearly got a bit of pace about him as well. Finishing seems pretty natural, so I think he'll be fine, to be honest with you. And as long as he doesn't headbutt people like Aaron was saying, he'll be fine. Let's move on to Man City then, and of course Erling Haaland. Everyone's been talking about him. Everyone, wanted to sign him, let's be honest. And Man City got him in early, and he looked pretty good. Of course, that was that sitter he missed in the Community Shield, but then scored 2 in the first game, assist in the second game. They brought him in. Sterling's obviously been let go. Zinchenko's gone as well. They've both gone as well, as has Gabriel Jesus. So they've moved some players on, but they've also brought some other players in, of course, to add to their strength and depth. Aaron Gan, what do you think of Man City in terms are they the favourites, I guess, given that they're champions? Haaland's there as well. People expecting him to fire and bang in goals. What's the expectation for City this year?
I think Haaland is going to be great in the Premier League. He's got the right style of play. He's got the pace, the touch, the finishing, the physicality to do well. I do feel, though, that when you take the combined influence of Jesus and Sterling, they probably even out. So I think if he came into that team with those players, he would have taken City to the next level. and there's a lot of pressure on him now to hit the ground running. I think for any team to find the same kind of hunger and desire to win the league again is a completely different challenge. And the way that Liverpool just missed out is only going to make them more driven and hungrier to win it this season. So everyone's going to be looking at City and thinking of them as the team to beat. So far, they've started strongly. But I think actually, even in the Community Shield, the way that they lost it to Liverpool, if I was a City fan, would be quite worrying. So I think, of course, they will be up there, but it will be quite hard for them to match where they were last season.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, it will be hard. Sure they'll be able to do it. Ash, I guess as Chelsea fans, look to Man City and say that was us a few years ago when we had all the money as well, and we're just completely just outbidding everyone, buying all the best players, and of course, happy days, champions, and all the glory. But now it's Man City. Are we jealous? Number one. Number two, how do you think Man City are going to do?
Absolutely, we're jealous. It kind of reminds me of when we had like Drogba and we just bought like Shevchenko, or then when we bought Torres, the best.
We just bought Torres for lols basically because he didn't even play.
Didn't even need him. Just like might as well. Because it's a similar thing with City. It's like, they're already the best team in the country. Do you really need Erling Haaland? But go on then. Why not? Why not make us even more stacked? I think he's such a good signing. He just seems built for the Premier League and destined to score goals. And I think I've watched a bit of their first couple of games, and De Bruyne seems to be as good as ever. They've got so much quality with Foden, and 2 clean sheets to start off. Their defense is so strong. I feel like both Liverpool and City actually kind of had defensive frailties a few years ago, but Liverpool was signing Van Dijk, and then City signing people like Ruben Diaz and Laporte just made their defenses so strong. And like those combined with lethal attacks, it just it's not really hard to see why those two teams have dominated the league for the last few years and been constantly getting sort of high 90s in terms of points. I think it's hard to really bet against City winning the league again this year. I guess the only thing is like you guys said, sort of is that hunger still there? I know they'll absolutely unequivocally be looking at winning the Champions League as sort of the final trophy to win. But yeah, I think they look super strong going into this season as well.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, it is basically, definitely jealous for sure. Definitely jealous of Man City, and they just have that strength and depth. I know Aaron Gale was saying that they've lost a few players, and then they brought in, was it Alvarez? I think they brought him in. He looks pretty good, and they just are able to just bring people in left, right, and centre. And Foden looks so good. He just keeps on improving. It's so ironic because De Bruyne and Salah are probably the two best players for City and Liverpool, but we had them at Chelsea and just threw them away, as we just tend to throw away a lot of good players and say, you're not very good, and they go on and just do bits at every other club. But I'm not bitter about that at all. I'm not bitter at the prospect of having De Bruyne and Salah playing for Chelsea right now, and of course not, no. And so we're struggling.
De Bruyne, Salah, and Hazard at the same time,
mate. Unbelievable. Anyway, what could have been? We could have put literally anyone up front. They would have put Emil Heskey up front. He would have scored goals with those three. But anyway, sorry, Emil Heskey, if you're watching, which you won't be, or listening. Before we touch upon some of the maybe some of the fixtures on the weekend, some that might be interesting. Quick fire. What's your guys' predictions for the top four? You can give some reasoning if you want. Otherwise, you can just go quick fire. Aaron, again, do you want to start?
Yeah. So Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Tottenham.
In that order, yeah?
In that order, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Liverpool champions. And no Chelsea in there. How could you anyway? Ali, your pick.
Liverpool, City, City, Liverpool, top two between them. Then
No, you got to pick. You got to pick
Oh,
one.
okay. Oof. City, Liverpool.
Okay.
Then third and fourth between Arsenal and Chelsea, probably.
Okay. No, Tottenham. Ash, what about you?
I'm going to go City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham.
You're throwing shade at Aaron Gann for not picking Chelsea. Is that why? Oh, God.
I think it'll go down to the wire, though. I think
Yeah.
last game of the season, I can see it.
Yeah, fourth has been going down to the wire, hasn't it? I should just chuck in someone weird like Fulham, the top four venue. Fulham for top four. You know what? Exactly. Who knows? I mean, Leicester won the Premier League not that long ago, so don't sleep on it. But no, I'm going to go. I don't know. Champions is interesting because actually, it's funny because Ali, you didn't pick Tottenham in your top four, but you said we were talking about Tottenham and that you think they could create a title challenge this year. Just saying.
No, and I'll tell you why. That's what I'm saying. It was Tottenham but the reason why I didn't pick Tottenham is because I think Tottenham will pose a threat for the majority of the season. But with all due respect to Tottenham, I don't think Tottenham have it in them, to handle that pressure. As the season gets narrowed down, can they handle it or not? Will they live up to the reputation they've developed the past few years of being bottle jobs? Can they handle that pressure? I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, Tottenham looked like they could pose a good. They could mount a good challenge. But I think the thing that may not allow them to get into the top four is their heart as the season gets narrowed down.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think with Tottenham, it's interesting because I just mentioned the Leicester win, but they should have really won that season, and they did bottle it. To be honest with you, and Leicester then kind of romped home. Interestingly, but Leicester, there's a famous all or nothing, and no trophies in the cabinet. But yeah, let's quickly then touch upon, I guess, some of the fixtures coming up, and well, not even for this week, but going forward. I mean, do we think who's going to get relegated? Actually, even from the bottom three, if we had to pick three, it doesn't have to be in any order because it's just three people get relegated or three teams get relegated. Who are we picking? And then I guess we can touch upon anything you guys want to discuss after. Aaron Gann, if you had to pick three teams, who's going down?
Just looking at the table now. Everton, I think, will be in and around there. Brentford, I really like them, but again, I think they'll be in and around there. Fulham as well. Notts Forest. Yeah, I think the promoted teams will struggle. I haven't seen anything from anyone which is going to prove why they're going to stay up. You could also quite easily see Southampton going down as well. So I'm going to say Notts Forest, Everton, and Fulham.
Okay, Ash.
I think Fulham always go down, so I'm going to say that. I think Everton, again, they look so bad at it. Even with a couple signings. I watched them against Villa and it was diabolical. So I can see Lampard as an early sacking potentially, but I think Everton might just stay up, but be there, round about the bottom. I can see Southampton actually struggling. So I'll probably go Fulham, Southampton, and then I want to say Man U, but probably being realistic, maybe I'm gonna go Leeds as well. I'm gonna go Leeds.
Leeds, oh, that's a big one. Okay, Ali, what about you?
I think it will be between. Bournemouth. The three promoted teams: Bournemouth, Fulham and Nottingham Forest. Having said that, if Mitrovic can remain fit and healthy and doesn't get injured and can carry on posing a threat, I think Fulham will survive. But as of now, I think Fulham and the others, Fulham, Bournemouth, and Forest.
You mean Brentford?
No, Nottingham Forest.
No, as in Brentford instead of Bournemouth, right?
No, Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth will go down.
Bournemouth will go down. Okay. All right, not bad. Okay, I'm gonna go with Manchester. No, I was gonna go with the Manchester United joke, but Ash has beat me to it. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go Southampton, Nottingham Forest. Oh, I don't know. I'm Fulham. Yeah, I'm gonna say Brentford stay up. And Bournemouth. I don't know. I like Brentford and Bournemouth, so a bit of bias there.
Forest against West Ham at home, and I feel like if they can kind of make their home ground a bit of a fortress, as it like, the atmosphere was crazy good there. And West Ham are a good side, and they were unlucky, but I feel like if Forest can get good results at home, then I'd actually back them to stay up. But I guess it is quite, it's always tough to promote teams, so I can see why you guys have put them down there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Is there anything you guys want to touch upon before we wrap up?
One thing, I'm going to make a crazy prediction. I've already said it. I think this season, Núñez will play better than Haaland. But looking over 2-3 seasons, Haaland will do better than Núñez.
Okay.
I think this season alone, there's more pressure on Haaland than there is on Núñez.
It's not that crazy prediction, to be fair. I can see why that might happen. Ash, Aaron, anything you guys want to touch upon?
City won't win the Champions League.
That's not a crazy thought, Aaron. That's not a crazy thought. I can. Yeah, I don't think they're going to win it this year either. I know they keep on getting close. Well, say keep on getting close. Last year they didn't, obviously, but I don't know. With Man City, it just seems to be a black void in which there's no coming out of, which is the black void of I'm never going to win the Champions League. Ash, anything you want to touch upon?
I guess real quickly, who do you guys think will be top scorer, and who do you guys think will be player of the season?
Okay, I think who's going to be top scorer and who's going to score the least goals? Goalkeepers. I'm going to go top scorer and who? What was the second question?
Player of the season.
Player of the season. Okay. Top scorer. Let's see. I'd love to say Havertz, but it's not going to be Havertz. It's going to be. I'm going to go. Arangan's going to love this one. I'm going to go to Gabriel Jesus if he stays fit. Because thing is, realistically, right, Man City, even though I think Haaland will score a lot of goals, other people will score goals as well. Like Foden will score some, De Bruyne will score some. They'll kind of come from everywhere. I feel like with Man City, with Liverpool, it's a similar thing. Like, Salah's gonna nick goals off Núñez. Like, definitely, if the ball's rolling in from Núñez and he knows it's going in, he's gonna bend down, put his head on it, and make sure it goes in the net. And to be fair, Salah could be one up there as well. But I feel like now that they've got a more recognised striker, I think he's not going to score as many goals. I think, right, because they're going to be looking to provide for the big guy up front. So I think Gabriel Jesus, everything's going through him. So that's why I'm going to go for him. Player of the season, well, Phil Foden. Ali, what's your predictions for that?
Top scorer will be tough. It will be between Salah, Haaland, and Núñez. Still can't decide. I don't want to dismiss Salah. At the same time, Haaland. I'm going to be biased. I'm going to pick Salah. Salah's my boy. Salah's my guy. I'm going to pick Salah for top scorer. Player of the season? Probably Haaland. Something tells me Haaland could be voted as the player, as in the most, potentially the best player.
Okay. Aaron again?
I think you'll be awarded.
I would love for an Arsenal player to be top scorer. I think it could be a Liverpool player or it could be Harry Kane. The only reasons are I can't remember a season in recent times where Gabriel Jesus, Haaland and Salah haven't been injured at least partway through it. If Liverpool win the league, it would be Salah more than Haaland, I think, more than Nunez. But it could just be Harry Kane because he always seems to score goals for Tottenham.
That's not one player. What's going on? Against like covering all bases. But yeah, if you had to pick one, also the player of the season as well. Who's player of the season for you?
I think probably Salah.
Salah for player of the season. Ash, what about you?
I think I'm going to say Haaland for top scorer, but super closely followed by Jesus. I think he'll have a fantastic season. And then player of the season, I'd probably go. I like the Foden shout. I'd probably go De Bruyne. But I think Reese James is also going to have a crazy good season. Not enough to win player of the season, but maybe Chelsea player of the season. But
Yeah, yeah, Chelsea player of the season. Yeah, that won't take much. Reese James is an interesting one, right? Because there was a load of rumors saying that he's going to Real Madrid. So I'm glad that didn't happen because we would have been screwed if he'd gone. I don't know who would have replaced him, but yeah, thank God for that. It would have been Azpilicueta because I thought he was going to Barcelona, but he stayed. He would have been he would have been trundling down the right hand side and huffing and puffing as he's like an old man now. Yeah, thanks guys for being on as always. Appreciate it. Our first podcast for the season, and hopefully, yeah, we can keep these regularly once a week and at least get one of you guys on, if not multiple people on, and the more the merrier. But yeah, thanks for being on. Is there anything you guys want to touch on before we wrap it up? No?
are we going to do weekly predictions or not?
We can do quick fire ones. Yeah, fine. Let's do quick fire ones, and I'll basically say the fixture, and then I'll go around. So let's do Aaron, Ganash, Ali in that order, and just tell me who you guys think are going to win. So Tottenham Wolves.
2-1 Wolves. I'm biased.
3-1 Tottenham.
2-0 Tottenham.
Okay, I'm going to go 2-0 Tottenham as well. Palace Villa.
2-1 Palace.
1-0 Palace.
1-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Palace. Everton Forest.
I think 1-1.
2-1 Everton.
Oh, you're 1-0 Everton.
0-0, I'm going to go. Fulham Brentford.
2-1 Fulham.
1-1.
2-2.
Yeah, I was going to go Tool as well, yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in that one. Leicester Southampton.
2-1 Leicester.
2-1 Leicester as well.
2-0 Leicester.
Yeah, 2-0 Leicester for me. Bournemouth Arsenal.
Are they going to get battered? 3-0, 4-0.
You trying to reverse jinx it. What's the actual prediction? Come on.
Probably 2-0 Arsenal.
Okay.
But yeah, 2-0, 3-1 Arsenal.
3-0 Arsenal.
We're 3-1 Arsenal. That's Saturday game. Sunday, Leeds Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea, yeah.
2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, 2-1 Chelsea as well. Got 2-1 written all over it. West Ham Brighton.
Maybe 2-0 West Ham.
Oh, I was just thinking that as well. Literally 2-0 West Ham. 2-0 West Ham or 2-1 West Ham?
Ooh. I'm going to go 2-1 Brighton.
Okay. We're going to go 1-0 Brighton. Just to be different. Newcastle Man City.
I reckon 3-0 or 3-1 City.
3-1 City.
2-0 City.
1-1, just to be different. Newcastle, the Saudi money, the battle of the Saudi clubs. Man United, Liverpool.
3-1 Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool.
3-0 Liverpool.
Yeah, 3-0 Liverpool for me. That's going to be a battering of epic proportions. Right, thanks guys for being on. Appreciate it as always. Guys, if you haven't done so already, remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Let us know your predictions as well, and also if you agree with our views. If you don't, then if you disagree, then let us know as well. Do a rating and review, and we'll see you guys hopefully next week. We'll have at least a couple of these guys on, hopefully, to discuss the results from the weekend, and then also anything else interesting going on in the week. Guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it, and see you guys soon.
Take care, man.